Hello, and welcome to the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. In this podcast, I will guide you through my faith and mental health journey to dispel the stigma surrounding mental illness and to create an empowering resource for those who wish to discover more about these topics. I pray that this podcast will not only bless you, but that it will bring growth and healing to our communities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Rough Edges. I am very excited about today's episode, and I know I normally say that about a lot of episodes, but this one is very special to me given the subject. And although it is rainy outside in New York City on this Memorial Day at the time of this recording, I am beaming on the inside because this topic is something that I've been meaning to cover for a while now. And it's just that there are a lot of life updates that have happened to me in the course of the past 2 weeks that make it applicable. So today I'm going to be talking about what does it look like to thrive with a mental health condition? And yes, you heard that, thrive with a mental health condition. And this is a topic that is very near and dear to me because for so long I thought that I couldn't thrive even though I had a mental health condition. And before I dive into the topic a little bit further, I know that I usually do the highs and lows for the week, but I'm going to be sharing some pretty big updates in this episode. So stay tuned and we're going to do something a little bit different this time. So I am going to start off by looking at what it means to overcome. So the word overcome, it means to succeed in dealing with a problem or difficulty. It also means to get control of something or gain mastery over tribulations, and it also means to triumph. So, in light of that definition, what it really means to overcome in the context of living with a mental health condition, it means that you have the resilience or the ability to develop the resilience that you need to keep moving forward, even though times might be difficult. And here's what overcoming does not mean, because a lot of people kind of misconstrue what the word means. It doesn't mean that you're 100% cured automatically, and it doesn't mean that all of your problems will go away. I just want to preface it by saying when I talk about the word overcome, it's really learning how to gain control and also how to move through difficult situations. It's not really, oh, I've overcome it, so I've cured it. It's more of, I've overcome it and I was able to subdue the power that it had over me in the beginning. So that's what I mean by the word overcome. And so, in looking at what it means to overcome with a mental health condition, you have to look at what the stigma is surrounding mental health. And I know a lot of the mental health stigma surrounds things that people don't really understand about mental health and living with a mental health condition. People don't really understand the intricacies of what it means. And also, a lot of people don't have the knowledge of what having a mental health diagnosis could look like and what is the science surrounding it and the information on it. So, in examining the stigma of mental health conditions, and I'm also going to look at bipolar disorder because that's a condition that I have, but there are a lot of overlapping similarities between the stigma of bipolar disorder and also the stigma surrounding mental health conditions in general. So, a couple of these words that I'm about to share with you, they might sound familiar, and I know to a lot of people, especially to myself included, I've heard a lot of these things or a lot of these words said to other people. And even in being on the other side of it and in dealing with a mental health condition, some of these things could really, really be harmful, especially when someone is trying to learn how to live with these conditions. So, here are some of the words that are often associated with people who either have bipolar disorder or any type of mental health condition. So, the first word is crazy, the next word is incoherent, The next one is aggressive. The next one is inconsistent. The next one is incompetent. And lastly, moody or emotional. So these are some of the words that come to mind if when people hear mental health conditions or mental health diagnoses or bipolar or depressed, anxiety, like when people hear about these things, those are usually the words that come to mind. And these stigmas are very harmful because it paints a picture about someone based on a condition that they have. And so, in knowing about the stigma, it kind of makes it difficult for someone to think that they can even thrive, let alone succeed at anything when they have all of these stigmas that are surrounding them and who they want to be. It's hard for them to kind of move forward when they have so many labels attached to them. And it is hard to succeed or even have the mindset to want to succeed and overcome because you have all of these stigmas attached to you. So, I want to talk about how I was able to journey through that initial hesitancy to succeed in life due to my mental health condition and what it meant for me to actually achieve those dreams that I had, and how that really recontextualized how I look at what it means to actually thrive and succeed with having a mental health condition. So, for people who are just listening to this or people who don't know, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder in January of 2021. And with that, I was institutionalized in a mental hospital. In that place, I had to really reconcile with the fact that not only did I have a mental health diagnosis, but I experienced a severe manic episode, which led me to be hospitalized. And for those of you who don't know, a manic episode manifests itself through feelings of elevation, or you feel invincible and you feel like you're on cloud nine and nothing can touch you. And even deeper than that, experiencing mania can make you like have rapid thoughts, it can make you talk really fast, and it can make you incomprehensible to a lot of people around you. And when you slip into psychosis, also, which is something that I experienced, it can make you hallucinate. It can make you hear things, see things. It could also make you very paranoid because you feel like a lot of these voices or a lot of these things that you're seeing are out to get you or are out to hurt you. And that could lead into you being very defensive, aggressive, and also pretty violent towards like people who are actually trying to help you. But at that point, you can't really tell the difference. So, because I experienced all of that, I was put into a mental hospital. And in the hospital, I received a diagnosis of bipolar 1 disorder. And with that, I didn't really know what to think initially. The only thing that I was really worried about is how am I going to transition into reality once I leave the hospital? And that leads me to my initial thoughts about the diagnosis itself. When I got diagnosed and I found out that it was bipolar disorder, my heart dropped immediately because all I knew about bipolar disorder was that it was very negative. People would say that the weather is bipolar if it changed a lot, or if you went from being happy to being sad, like people would say that you're bipolar. And there was nothing good that was associated with the word bipolar. So that alone gave me a lot of pause because I didn't know what to expect with living with this. And I also didn't believe it at first because I used all of my accolades like prior to that. Like I had just graduated college. I was on track to developing a career in you know, legal stuff and everything. And so I didn't really associate myself with having bipolar disorder because of my successes and because of the things that I wanted to do and my ambition. I thought there's no way I have bipolar disorder. Like this must be a fluke. Like this must be a nervous breakdown that I had. Like, it's fine. Like, I was just trying to rationalize everything. And so when I got diagnosed, I thought that it was the end. And I thought that I had to put all of my dreams on hold because now I had to manage this condition. And I didn't really know how to do that in coming out of the hospital at first. So when I was released from the hospital after a couple weeks of being in the mental hospital, I found it difficult to get back into the swing of things, especially with going back to work at the time. And since it was during the pandemic, also, there was a lot of shifts that I had to learn how to manage, especially with taking new medication, seeing a psychiatrist, seeing a therapist like on a weekly basis instead of bi weekly like I was used to before. And there were just a lot of changes that have happened and I didn't really know how to process it because at that point, I was still in denial about a lot of things that were going on. And so all I kept thinking was, how am I supposed to go back to school? Because at that point, I wanted to go back to school to do graduate school, but also I wanted to do law school. And at that point, I was studying for the LSAT before I like had my manic episode. I was like going to apply to law school. I was going to do all of these things. Then the manic episode happened, and I felt like I had to shift a lot of my dreams. And so going to law school, I had to close that door because at the time I missed the window to apply. A lot of things didn't really fall into place. And with me experiencing that severe of a manic episode, I thought it would be best for me not to engage in strenuous academic activity at the time. And even in the midst of me trying to shift my dreams, there were a lot of things that I've come to love outside of law school, like being a mental health advocate through the podcast and doing the legal stuff and also doing mental health in the legal space. And so that led me to want to pursue a master's degree in forensic psychology. And with that, I started going to Liberty University 100% online, and I was pursuing my master's degree in that particular field because that seemed like the perfect merge between studying the legal field, studying the criminal justice system, and also studying the psychology behind, the victims, the perpetrators, law enforcement, and how mental health plays a role in the criminal justice system itself. And so that is something that really intrigued me. And that's something that I want to continue to pursue in a career. But before I get ahead of myself in that, starting school while working, because I was also a case manager at the time, while I was working and going to school and learning how to manage a mental health condition and like doing a podcast, like I was just doing a whole bunch of things. But doing all of these things, even though they were very hard at times, especially when I had a long day at work and there was a lot going on emotionally, then I had to go home and write a paper. Like those days were the toughest days ever, but they also showed me how much I could be able to do despite having a mental health condition. And this all comes through balance as well. Like, I really had to know when I needed to set proper boundaries in order to take care of my mental health. Because when I was like on the brink of burnout, sometimes I really had to take a step back and really evaluate how is this affecting my mental health. And because my mental health is affected, how is it affecting how I show up at work or in the work that I'm producing for school? Like, I really had to do a lot of self assessment to really understand where I needed to put the boundary, how I needed to manage the burnout, and what balance that I needed to create between my work and my professional life and my personal and academic life. And so it kind of felt like I was juggling multiple things at once, but in the end, I learned that I needed to create a balance because if you don't create a balance in your life, a lot of things are going to spin out of control and you're going to feel helpless and powerless to make better changes. So, in doing school and work and podcasting and managing my mental health condition, sooner or later, I had to graduate. And so that was the biggest update that I wanted to share. I recently graduated from Liberty University with a Master's of Science in Criminal Justice Forensic Psychology. Woo! I know that's like a mouthful, but I am so, so proud because not only did I defy the odds of like going through such a severe episode in my life and coming back and actually continuing to pursue my dreams, it is also a testament to the fact that hard work, resilience, and even being gracious to yourself can really pay off in the long run. And this milestone really changed my view of success and my ability to also still achieve the things that I set out to do. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it was easy. It was not easy, especially juggling all of the other things that I had to do. But in the end, I am so happy to know that me having a diagnosis wasn't the end of my story and it wasn't a death sentence. It wasn't something that was a hindrance to me in the long run. It just showed that even though I do have this condition, it doesn't dictate what I can do and how far I can go in terms of actually achieving the success that I set out to achieve. So, yeah, I just wanted to encourage you as I leave you with a couple of tips for especially the moments that you feel like you haven't really accomplished much. So, I just want to share like four tips for like when you feel like you can't really accomplish anything, even though you have a mental health condition and you feel like the stigma's attached to it and you're afraid to pursue your dreams. I just want to speak to you and let you know that when a door closes, a window definitely opens. Like there are other opportunities out there. And this is something that I had to accept, especially after I had to switch up my plans from going to law school initially. I had to realize that sometimes when one door closes, a window or another door opens. And sometimes it's for the best. Like, I discovered that I had a passion not only for criminal justice, but also for mental health. And I don't think I would have discovered that if I didn't also had to personally go through some of the experiences that people with mental health conditions go through. And so in the end, it was a little hard to let go of the whole law school idea, but in the end, I did gain something better and something that really fit my passions in a way that I was still able to pursue the law, but just utilizing mental health and pursuing it in a different way. So that is something that I'm grateful for. And I just want to encourage you to seize those opportunities as they come. Because even though it's not exactly what you want 100% of the time, it is another opportunity that can help you to be able to thrive and to be able to achieve your dreams in a new and exciting way. The next thing I want to share is surround yourself with people who can encourage you. And this is something that is super important because when you have people in your life that can really spark that fire in you to keep going, that is the biggest blessing that you can have. And I am so grateful for my community, my mom, my sister, my mentors, like my friends, and just people who were like my biggest cheerleaders on this journey. I am just so grateful for them because without their encouragement, I wouldn't really be sitting here. And I also wouldn't be able to have that desire to move forward because sometimes the journey gets very daunting and you don't really know where to turn half the time. So, having those people in your life just gives you that positive reinforcement to help you to be able to keep going. The next thing that I want to share is know your worth and know your value, especially in God's eyes. Now, for me, as a woman of faith, I have to really look at how God views me, especially when I feel like I'm not good enough or my success isn't good enough or things that I want to do like it's never enough. Like whenever I feel like that, I use like positive like biblical affirmations to really reinforce who I am and where my identity is, especially in Christ. So I would say things to myself like, I'm the head and not the tail. I'm more than a conqueror, and just things to like encourage and remind myself that I can do this and I can move forward. So even if it's not a biblical affirmation for you, like you could do positive affirmations or just things that you want to reinforce for yourself. And just use those things to motivate you to keep going and remind yourself of who you are. And lastly, I want to encourage you to celebrate all wins, whether big or small. And so, with that, I would encourage you to just like revel in your successes. Like when I was at commencement, it was such an amazing experience, not only because I was able to sit there with like my peers and just celebrate the monumental milestone that we all achieved, but I also got to take in just the celebration and the triumph that occurred because I didn't give up and I was able to pursue it to the end and get my master's. And so I would encourage you that even if it's as small as like, you're setting a proper boundary or you saying no to something or you getting out of bed in the morning or you taking time for yourself for the week. Like these are things that deserve to be celebrated. And so if you do something or make progress, like just celebrate yourself. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your successes because the more you celebrate, the more gratitude steps in. And the more that you're grateful for the things that you've done already, the more that you're able to feel like you can move forward and do more things. So, yeah, I would just say celebrate yourself because you deserve to be celebrated, especially when you work so hard to pursue your dreams. Well, with that being said, I am so happy about getting to share that news with you and also getting to encourage you to overcome in your life because you are an overcomer and you are able to make it through difficult situations. I wanted to share a trailer for an episode that I'm gonna potentially be guesting on. And it is a very amazing podcast and it covers some of similar topics that I cover. And it is just amazing. So take a listen to this trailer and we'll be right back.
Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Abigail Gagnon, and I am the host of the Beautiful Legacy podcast. It can be found on all podcast platforms. We can also be found on Instagram, beautiful_legacy, as well as Threads. I love hosting a podcast. I love being able to talk about all things growth, self-development, mental and chronic illnesses, as well as what kind of legacy we all want to leave. Why do we want to leave it? I have special guests in almost every single episode, and I also share some of my own stories, my own wisdom, and I just love being able to hear from the listeners, hear what they want to hear, be able to talk about all kinds of topics. And it just has been such a fun journey. And I hope that you come along for the ride.
So, after hearing the trailer and this episode, if you do have any questions, I'm available on social media. I also have a website, roughedgespodcast.com. And an email list as well. So you can go to the website to join the email list so you can stay up to date with new things that I'm doing. And also, if you have any questions, you can reply to the email and we can just have a conversation. I appreciate all the encouragement and the support that you constantly give me. I love and appreciate this community, and stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rough Edges podcast with Sarah I. Fox. If you want more updates on the podcast, you can follow on Instagram at rough.edges.podcast, or you can visit the official podcast website at roughedgespodcast.com. Thanks again for listening and have a wonderful day.